I stood outside my house, the weight of the world pressing down on me as I stared at the door I used to call home. I never imagined I could feel so lost, so utterly alone, especially with Mark. He was my son, my little boy who had grown into a man whose choices left me breathless. It wasn't until that fateful Tuesday afternoon that I realized I had to take matters into my own hands. As I stood there, my heart raced, torn between disbelief and anger. I had suspected something was off for weeks. Mark had changed, and his wife, Lauren, seemed to have her own agenda. I couldn't shake the feeling that their smiles were mere masks, hiding something sinister. That day, I finally decided to find out what was really happening behind closed doors. I could still hear Lauren's laughter echo in my mind, see the way she looked at Mark. Too much adoration in her eyes, almost like she was rehearsing for a play. What if I was just being paranoid? I couldn't let myself succumb to those thoughts, not when the stakes were so high. I had to protect my son, even from himself. My first step was a simple yet daunting one, installing a hidden camera in the living room. It took me hours of planning. I chose a spot behind a potted plant where its vibrant green leaves would offer the perfect cover. As I finished, I sat back on the couch, anxiety coiling in my stomach. Would I really be able to handle what I might uncover? The next Tuesday arrived slowly, dragging my nerves along with it. I waited, half scared, half determined. Finally, the moment came. I watched from my phone screen as the door swung open, revealing Lauren's familiar silhouette. My heart pounded, and I leaned in closer, trying to quiet the chaos swirling inside my mind. What happened next shattered my already fragile composure. Lauren stepped inside, her demeanor casual, like she was entering her own home. She walked directly to the coffee table, placed an envelope on it, and quickly scanned the room. My breath caught in my throat. What was in that envelope? Why did it feel so important? She lingered for a moment before turning to leave. As she walked out, I noticed her glance over her shoulder once more, and then the door clicked shut behind her. I wasted no time. I rushed to the coffee table, my heart racing as I picked up the envelope. But as quickly as I grasped it, anxiety hit me again. Was I really ready to rip it open? With trembling fingers, I opened it, revealing nothing but empty pages and an unsettling note scribbled in Lauren's handwriting. "We'll meet at the same place next week." Who was she meeting? The questions burned in my mind. I shoved the envelope back in, knowing I had to investigate further. As the days passed, I became consumed by my mission. I dug deeper into Lauren's life, searching online for any clues. I discovered that she had a friend named Jenna who lived a few blocks away. Maybe Jenna knew something. I decided to pay her a visit, anxiously rehearsing what I would say. When I approached Jenna's door one evening, my heart felt like it might burst. After a few knocks, a young woman with bright red hair opened up. I immediately introduced myself. "Jenna, hi, I'm Olivia, Mark's mother. I'm hoping you could help me." A look of confusion crossed Jenna's face, but she stepped aside and invited me in. "Sure, come in. What's going on?" I hesitated before speaking. "I'm worried about Lauren. I think something's happening, something that could hurt Mark. Have you noticed anything unusual?" Jenna's brow furrowed as she listened, and I could see the gears turning in her mind. "Well, she did seem off lately. Sometimes she goes out without telling anyone where she's going, but I thought it was just her having a moment." I could feel the coolness of denial setting in, and I pressed on. "Do you know if she's been seeing anyone else?" Jenna hesitated, her silence feeling like a weight on my chest. The next few days felt like a blur, the weight of my findings pressing down on my chest. I couldn't shake the image of Lauren slipping in and out of my house, leaving those envelopes behind. What could they possibly contain? This gnawing suspicion had become an obsession. As I sat in my dimly lit kitchen, I felt my phone vibrate. It was a message from Jenna. "Can we talk? I have something important to share about Lauren." My heart raced. Perhaps this was the breakthrough I needed. I arranged to meet her at a cafe down the street. The familiar scent of coffee filled the air as I approached our usual table. Jenna looked anxious, her fingers tapping nervously against the ceramic mug. "Thanks for coming," I said, trying to mask my apprehension. "What's going on?" She glanced around, ensuring no one was within earshot. "I overheard something the other day," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Lauren was talking to someone on the phone, and it didn't sound like it was about work. What do you mean? I leaned in, hoping for clarity. She mentioned a meeting about your son. She sounded, well, not like the loving wife we know, Jenna continued, her brow furrowed with concern. That's exactly what I've been afraid of, I confessed. It's like I'm watching a train wreck in slow motion. I just can't understand why. Maybe she feels trapped, Jenna suggested gently. Or maybe it's just excitement in the wrong way. I'm sorry, Olivia. A chill ran through me as I considered her words. My son, my sweet boy, caught in the web of deceit spun by the woman I once welcomed into our family. I couldn't let it continue. Days passed, and my investigation turned into a full-time job. I found myself spending hours scrutinizing the video footage from the hidden camera. Each Tuesday, I would sit in front of my laptop, holding my breath as I watched Lauren step inside, looking over her shoulder as if she were about to get caught. Each time she left that envelope, my heart raced. What was it? I had to know. Finally, I decided it was time to confront Mark. I couldn't keep this a secret any longer. I needed him to understand the depths of what was happening. Mark, I said one evening, the weight of my words heavy in the air. We need to talk about Lauren. He looked at me, confusion etched on his face. What do you mean? Mom, she's my wife. We're happy. Happy? Then why does she come to the house when you're not here? I demanded, unable to mask my frustration. Why does she leave those envelopes? Mark's expression shifted, uncertainty creeping into his eyes. What are you talking about? That's not a defense. I've seen her come and go. I've watched her act like a thief in her own home. My voice trembled with emotion. I just want you to see what I see. As I spoke, I could see the denial in his eyes, the loyalty to his wife blinding him to the truth. You're wrong, Mom. I trust Lauren. My heart broke a little more. What if I'm not? What if you're trusting someone who is betraying you? Silence filled the room, heavy and suffocating. It was as if the walls themselves were pressing down on us. Days turned into weeks, and I felt the walls of my own home closing in. I made a decision. I needed control over my life. I called a locksmith and had the locks changed. It was a small act, but it felt monumental. I was reclaiming my space, my safety, and it marked the beginning of my fight. I reached out to a lawyer friend. It's time to take action, I said firmly, my voice steadier than it had been in weeks. I need to protect myself and my son from whatever's happening. With each step I took, I felt more empowered. My conversations with my attorney revealed the extent of my rights. The more I learned, the more I realized that I could stand up for myself. On the day of the court hearing, my heart raced as I walked in, the tension palpable. I felt a surge of confidence as I stood before the judge, ready to reveal the truth. I had spent countless nights lying awake, staring at the ceiling, trapped in a whirlpool of betrayal and heartbreak. The hidden camera had unveiled more than I had expected, and with each replay, my heart ached deeper. Lauren's visits to our apartment, her furtive movements, and the mysterious envelope were like shards of shattered glass, each piece cutting into my skin, leaving me bleeding with doubt and rage. On the morning after I had installed the locks, I decided to take a stroll. Fresh air might clear my foggy mind. As I walked through the neighborhood, I noticed families gathered in their yards, children laughing and couples walking hand in hand. It felt surreal. My son was supposed to be one of those happy people, yet here I was, caught in this web of deceit. That afternoon, I received a call from Jenna. "Olivia, can we meet?" she asked, her voice laced with urgency. I agreed, my heart racing. Jenna had been a friend to Lauren, but she was also concerned. Upon meeting her at a small coffee shop, the tension between us was palpable. "Olivia, I wanted to talk to you about Lauren. I've seen things, heard things," she began, biting her lip as if weighing her words. "She's been coming here to our place, hasn't she? What is she up to?" I demanded, leaning forward. Jenna glanced around, ensuring others weren't listening. "I don't know exactly, but there's something going on. She's been meeting someone else, I'm sure of it." The confirmation hit me like a slap. Mark knows, doesn't he? No, he thinks she's just busy with work. I think she's been lying to him too, Jenna said, her eyes wide. In that moment, a strange power surged within me. I was no longer the weak mother who feared losing her son. I was the woman who would fight for the truth. I have to confront Mark again. This time, I won't back down. As we left the cafe, Jenna placed a hand on my shoulder. Be careful, Olivia. It's not just about you anymore. After a sleepless night filled with fury and determination, I prepared to meet Mark. I picked a vibrant scarf to wear, not to hide my pain, but to show him that I would not be defeated. When he arrived, I could sense the unease in his demeanor. "Mom, what's going on?" Mark asked, his eyes darting around the room like a trapped animal. "Sit down, Mark. We need to talk." He frowned, but complied. "Is this about Lauren again?" "Yes, it is. I know you've been lying to me about her. You know the truth about her visits, don't you?" Mark looked away, visibly uncomfortable. "You don't understand. She's just stressed." "Don't patronize me, Mark. I saw the camera footage. I know exactly what's happening. You need to face it," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. He sighed, rubbing his temples. "Mom, please. It's complicated. Lauren and we're going through a lot." "Complicated? Or is it just a cover-up for your own betrayal? You're choosing her over your own family." My heart raced as I spoke, each word laced with anger and hurt. "Mom, that's not true. You have to believe me." His voice cracked under the weight of desperation. "You need to wake up," I countered, "before it's too late." The confrontation left Mark visibly shaken. He stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. "I don't want to do this. I love Lauren," he shouted, his voice echoing in the small room. "You love her?" I shot back, my eyes narrowing. "Is that what you call this game of lies? You deserve better, Mark. You deserve someone who respects you enough not to run around behind your back." He paused, looking conflicted. "Maybe you're right. Maybe I've been blind." In that moment, I felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps he would see through the fog that clouded his judgment. "I'm here for you, regardless of what you decide. Just know that I will always fight for you." After our conversation, I felt a sense of relief wash over me. As I sat in the cold, hard chair of the small courtroom, a wave of anxiety washed over me. My heart raced in my chest as I glanced at my son, Mark, seated beside his wife, Lauren. They seemed to share a private world, one that was closed off to me. I could see him whispering something in her ear, and for a moment, I felt the sharp pang of betrayal slice through me again. But I wasn't here to wallow in pain. Today was about reclaiming my voice. "Do you have the evidence?" Jenna whispered from the other side of the room, her arms crossed tightly as if to shield herself from the tension that filled the air. I nodded, feeling the small envelope tucked safely in my purse. It held proof, a collection of images and recordings from the hidden cameras I had installed weeks ago. Lauren's deceit was laid bare, and I was ready to expose it. The judge entered, and I straightened in my seat. This was serious. As she settled in and the gavel struck, I felt a mix of determination and fear. Every moment leading to this had been fraught with uncertainty, but no more. I had fought too hard to allow myself to feel weak today. "Let's begin with the plaintiff," the judge said, her voice steady and calm. I took a deep breath as I stood up, my palms sweaty against the crisp paper of my statement. "Your Honor," I began, my voice trembling but growing stronger with each word. "I am here today because I believe I deserve to understand the truth about my son's life and the choices being made around him." I glanced briefly at Mark, who seemed surprised by my assertiveness. The corner of my mouth tugged up. Maybe he would finally see where I stood. "Mr. Mark Thompson," I continued, turning my focus back to the judge, "is the son of a loving mother who has always supported him. Unfortunately, this support has been taken for granted by his wife, Lauren." The murmurs in the courtroom surged. I could feel their eyes on me, curious and eager to hear more. I took a moment to study myself before proceeding. I have evidence of actions that have been taken behind my back, actions that show a betrayal towards both me and my son. With that, I opened the envelope and presented the printed stills from my hidden cameras.
Here, I pointed, my finger shaking slightly as I gestured to the image of Lauren entering my apartment. This was taken last Tuesday. And this next photo shows her leaving with something. The courtroom erupted into a hushed whisper, and I glanced at Mark. His face was pale, and I could see the color drain from his cheeks. Maybe my words were finally breaking through the walls Lauren had built around him. "Would you like to explain your relationship with Mrs. Thompson?" the judge asked, directing her attention to Lauren. Lauren's face twisted into something almost unrecognizable. For a moment, her confident facade cracked. "I don't know what you're trying to imply, Olivia," she shot back, her voice laced with disdain. "I have done nothing wrong." The tension thickened as I felt the heat rise in my chest. "You entered my home without permission, and you left with something that didn't belong to you. I have witnesses, and I have proof," I countered, my voice stronger now. "Mom, stop," Mark finally said, his face a mix of desperation and anger. "This is not the time or place for this." "How can I stop when your life and our family's future are at stake?" I replied, feeling a surge of both frustration and worry for him. "You have to understand, Mark, she's manipulating you." "I'm not manipulating anyone," Lauren snapped, her eyes flashing with anger. "You're just angry because you feel replaced. This is between Mark and me." "Is it?" I challenged, sensing that this was my moment. "You've been taking advantage of your position, of my son's love. This should have been a partnership, but you've turned it into a game with my family." The judge raised an eyebrow, motioning for silence. "We will not tolerate disrespect." I took a deep breath as I sat in the courtroom, my heart pounding in my chest. This was it, the moment I'd waited for, prepared for, and dreaded all at once. The evidence I'd collected sat neatly in a folder at my side, a testimony to the truth I had uncovered about Lauren and Mark. I had spent so many sleepless nights navigating through feelings of betrayal and heartbreak, but now something shifted within me. I felt stronger, more in control than I had in a long time. The courtroom buzzed with whispers as we waited for the judge to arrive. I glanced at Mark, seated across the aisle, looking torn between loyalty to his wife and the mother he'd known all his life. I wanted to reach out to him, to tell him everything would be all right, but now it was no longer about comforting him. It was about standing my ground for both of us. "Olivia," a soft voice broke through my thoughts. It was my lawyer, Carol, leaning in closer. "Are you
Ready? I nodded, though my throat felt tight. As ready as I'll ever be. When the judge entered, the room fell silent. I straightened in my seat, feeling the weight of countless eyes upon me. Mark stole a glance, and for a fleeting moment, I saw a flicker of understanding pass between us. But then it was gone, masked by a layer of uncertainty and pain. As the proceedings began, Carol presented the evidence. I watched as she displayed the footage of Lauren entering our apartment on those Tuesday afternoons, and Mark squirmed in his seat. It didn't feel good to see him uncomfortable, but I knew this was necessary. I needed him to see the truth. "Your Honor," Carol stated, her voice steady, "the evidence clearly indicates that Mrs. Lauren has engaged in deceitful behavior. This was not a one-time incident, it was a pattern." I could see Mark's face turn pale. I struggled to suppress the tremor in my hands as I gripped the edge of the table. This was the moment I had dreamed of when I first decided to collect the footage. I could finally reveal the truth, but it felt like a double-edged sword. "Objection!" Lauren's lawyer interjected, rising to his feet. "This evidence is circumstantial. Just because she entered the apartment does not imply any wrongdoing." Before I could stop myself, I spoke up. "Your Honor, may I say something?" The judge nodded, granting me permission. I stood, feeling all eyes on me, my heart racing. "I don't want to make assumptions," I began, my voice surprisingly steady. "But I loved my son enough to fight for him. Lauren hasn't just broken my trust, she's manipulated our family in ways I can hardly describe. I watched my son change. He became distant and confused, and it's because of Lauren's influence." The murmurs in the courtroom increased. I looked at Mark, his gaze locked on me, confusion battling with hurt. I took a deep breath, hoping I could break through to him. "Mark, I know this isn't easy for you, but you have to see what she's done. You deserve to know the truth."
A silence hung in the air before he replied, his voice barely above a whisper. Mom, I don't want to believe it. I felt a pang in my heart. I don't want you to either, but it's happening right in front of you. This isn't just about us anymore. It's about your happiness. The judge cleared his throat, disrupting the emotional moment. I glanced back at Carol, who nodded encouragingly. The judge ruled to allow the evidence and called for a short recess. As the gavel echoed, I felt the air shift. This battle had just begun. During the break, I found myself standing outside in the hallway, my mind racing. I needed to talk to Mark. I couldn't let him walk away from this without understanding. Mark, I called, watching his retreating figure. He stopped but didn't turn around. Mom, please, he said, his voice strained. I can't deal with this right now. I know it's overwhelming. I stood there, my heart pounding as the judge allowed me to present the evidence. I took a deep breath, determined to show everyone what I had discovered about my son and his wife. The courtroom felt stifling, filled with the air of tension. I could see Mark sitting across from me, his brow knit in confusion, while Lauren maintained that facade of innocence, a slight smile barely visible on her lips. Your Honor, I began, my voice steady but trembling under the weight of the moment. I have reason to believe that my son Mark has been manipulated by his wife, Lauren. I installed security cameras in my home after I became suspicious of their activities. I could feel the eyes of the audience on me, a mix of curiosity and judgment. This was my only chance to reach Mark. I clicked to the first video. The screen flickered to life and I watched it with a pang in my stomach. There was Lauren, slipping quietly into my apartment on a Tuesday afternoon. I glanced at Mark, who shifted in his seat, the color draining from his face. I could practically hear the gears turning in his mind. This is the day I caught Lauren entering my home, I continued, pointing at the screen. What you can't see is what she left behind, a sealed envelope that vanished shortly after. I watched as Mark's expression hardened, the betrayal flickering in his eyes. I could see the pieces connecting for him, just as they had for me. I have footage of her returning every week, I added, letting the tension hang in the air for a moment. And each time, that envelope would disappear. When I finally confronted Lauren, she acted as if nothing was wrong. I paused, looking at the judge and back to Mark. But I knew something was deeply off. Mom, Mark's voice broke through the tension. You can't possibly think Lauren would do something like that. His eyes were pleading, as if trying to grab hold of the last shred of loyalty he had for his wife. Mark, please, I implored, feeling the tears edging their way to the surface. I did this for you, to protect you. I swallowed hard, steadying myself. Don't you see how she's been manipulating not just you, but our entire family? How can you say that about her? He shot back, anger bleeding into his confusion. You don't know her like I do. I thought I did, I replied, my voice softer now. But she's changed you. I don't recognize my son anymore. The silence that followed felt like a void, with only the faint rustle of papers breaking the stillness. Lauren's smile faded, replaced by a look of irritation. This is ridiculous, Olivia. You're grasping at straws. Mark loves me. You just can't stand to see him happy without your control. I shook my head, feeling a surge of righteous anger. This isn't about control, Lauren. It's about truth. And I'm not going to stand by while you manipulate my son for your own gain. The judge intervened, raising a hand. Let's keep this civil. Mrs. Mackenzie, please direct your focus to the evidence and avoid personal attacks. I nodded, turning my attention back to the screen, and played the next clip. This time, it showcased a confrontation between Lauren and me. I had confronted her about the envelope, demanding to know what was in it. You're not fit to make decisions for Mark, I could be heard saying, my voice strong yet shaking. I'm his wife, she had spat back, her eyes cold. You're just jealous that you're losing him to me. The courtroom burst into murmurs as people processed the video. I could feel the tension shift. The support of the audience was palpable, and it was as if I was no longer alone in this fight. Your Honor, I said, turning back to the judge, I've gathered more evidence, including texts and emails that reveal Lauren's motives. I'm worried for Mark's future. If he continues down this path, he'll be lost. Mark's face was a mixture of shock and anger. Mom, you don't understand, he argued, desperation creeping into his voice. I love her. You're only seeing part of the picture. We can't ignore the truth, Mark, I urged. Please, just look at the evidence. As the judge's gavel struck, silence enveloped the courtroom. The air was thick with tension, and I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. The evidence I had painstakingly gathered had become my lifeline, a means to not just protect my son, but to reclaim my own sense of self. Standing before the judge, I took a deep breath and prepared to speak once more. Your Honor, I began, my voice steady despite the storm of emotion swirling inside me. What you're about to see is not just a betrayal of trust, but a manipulation that has torn my family apart. I gestured to the screen where the footage of Lauren entering my apartment on Tuesday evenings flickered to life. This has been happening for months. I installed a camera because I felt something was wrong and I needed proof. I watched as disbelief flickered across the faces in the courtroom, particularly on my son Mark's. His eyes darted from the screen to me, confusion etched on his features. Mom, he interjected, his voice tight, you didn't have to do this. But I did, Mark, I replied, my tone firm but laced with a hint of sadness. You deserved the truth, and so did I. The words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of our fractured relationship. The video played on, showing Lauren entering quietly, her demeanor relaxed as she made her way to the living room. I had watched this footage countless times, each viewing deepening my resolve. Near
End of the clip, she placed an envelope on the table and, moments later, slipped out. That envelope, I continued, vanished before I could ever find out what was inside. It was never returned. I believe it contained a secret that would further unravel this deception. The courtroom buzzed, whispers ricocheting among audience members. Lauren's lawyer stood, attempting to maintain control. Objection, Your Honor. This is based on speculation. There's no concrete evidence of any wrongdoing. I felt a surge of defiance rush through me. If I may, Your Honor, I pressed on, the pattern of behavior speaks louder than mere allegations. This isn't just speculation, this is evidence of a deeper manipulation that has affected my son's life, and it's critical for the court to recognize that. I could see the judge nodding, and a flicker of hope ignited within me. After several more minutes of tense exchanges, Lauren's lawyer reluctantly conceded. Perhaps we should delve into the contents of that envelope to clarify the nature of this situation, he muttered, clearly rattled by my unwavering stance. The judge agreed, and I felt a rush of adrenaline. I had transformed from being the victim of manipulation to the protector of a truth that had to be revealed. Maybe, just maybe, this battle wasn't solely about a betrayal between spouses. It was about reclaiming my identity, my family, and my peace. As the court session progressed, I could feel Mark's gaze soften, uncertainty crossing his features. I caught his eye, and in that brief moment, I sensed his internal struggle. Mom, he started, but I knew he was grappling with his loyalty to Lauren and the reality I was exposing. Mark, just listen, I urged, my heart aching. This isn't simply about your relationship with her. This is about your happiness and the truth. You deserve more than just blind loyalty to someone who's deceiving you. The proceedings continued, each new piece of evidence I presented, building a stronger case against Lauren and revealing her manipulative nature. By the end of the session, it felt as though I had taken back control of my life. The changing of the locks had been a small but powerful step. This courtroom was the moment I reclaimed my narrative. In the days that followed the verdict, a newfound peace settled over me. I had won, not just the case, but a sense of purpose. I reached out to other women who had similar stories, those who had faced betrayal and deception. My own experience had turned into a mission to help them reclaim their stories, their identities. Olivia, you've changed, one woman said to me in a support group session. You carry yourself differently now. It's like you finally found your voice. I smiled, reflecting on the journey I had taken. I had gone from feeling alone and powerless to standing firm in my truth. Thank you, I replied, my voice steady.